This is the Tactical Scalper, and today we're going to talk about what is better to scalp. Is it futures? Is it SPY? Or is it SPX? Which one is better to scalp with the 4 EMA strategy? And these are just obviously my thoughts, my opinions, and how they work for my plan. But these are just some observations that I have. Okay, so the benefits to futures are there's no PDT rule, right? You can trade futures as much as you want as long as you don't lose all the money in your account. And another great thing about futures is once you sell your scalp, win or loss, that buying power goes right back in. So for small accounts, futures is definitely something you need to think about because of that buying power alone. That can really help boost your account and not lose buying power doing it. Another benefit to futures is the moves can be dynamic versus SPY. You can make, the moves are just incredible up and down. So you can make a lot more money with less overhead trading futures. However, the downside to that is you can also lose more money. Now, as far as risk management goes, risk management is much easier on SPY than it is on futures, just because SPY trades to the penny and futures trade to 0.025, right, to the quarter. So you can't manipulate your stops as tightly as you can with SPY. So if risk management is a really important deal to you, that may be a deal breaker with futures just because of that gap alone. Also, it's very hard to take profit at an exact point to the penny with futures like you can with SPY just because it doesn't trade to the penny. Okay, so there's a really a big difference there. There's some positives and negatives to the futures. Now, also futures have longer wicks than SPY, and what that means is if you trade the 4 EMA strategy, if you use futures, you have to put your stop lower, which means now you're skewing your risk reward ratio, which now means you need more on the upside to make up for the longer stop you have to put on futures to make it work. Another difference between the two is your entry on futures has to be almost perfect because of how fast the candles move. And if you miss a move on futures, you got to let it go because the risk reward is just gets really, really out of whack. Now on SPY, you can afford to miss a little bit on a move because it doesn't move as fast. So therefore, your risk reward, even though you miss a little bit on a move, you can still get in because your risk reward is much more manageable. Okay. Now when it comes to options, and this is what I hear a lot. What about theta or delta or gamma? You don't have to worry about that in futures, which is absolutely true, which is another benefit to futures, scalping futures, over SPY. However, I will say if you're scalping correctly, you're only in the trade for seconds to a minute to 2 to 3. So the theta doesn't affect you when you're scalping as much. Yeah, I mean, maybe you'll lose a penny. I don't know, but maybe even half a cent or a quarter of a cent. But that's about it because you are in and out of that trade so fast that theta does not have a chance to really attack you. Like if you were to play, make a long options trade, then theta is a massive factor on SPY, but we're talking about scalping, not longer trades. Also, I noticed with futures versus SPY, it respects the EMAs, much like SPY does, and it moves almost identical, but there are some small variations day to day that happen with futures that don't happen on SPY. Positive or negative, it doesn't matter. There's just some slight variations. So just the way the candles move and how fluid they are on SPY versus futures. And what I mean by that is futures, when the candles move on futures, they move kind of blocky, like go up a little bit, go up a little bit, and they move in like little blocks. Versus SPY, which is fluid when it moves, it doesn't go in blocks. It just smoothly goes up, smoothly goes down, which I think makes it much easier to read what each individual candle is doing on SPY versus futures. So for me, for those two, SPY is definitely the way to go for me and my plan, because risk management is my number one priority over what I'm going to make. My thought process is, as long as I keep my capital, I'm going to continue to make money on SPY, no problem, where I can lose my capital a lot quicker on futures, because we never know if the trade is going to work or not. You're just trading a high probability setup with a tight risk reward, with a tight stop and going for a decent reward. Well, on futures, that stop has to be lower, which means the risk reward gets kind of out of whack. So SPY takes the edge for me. Now let's talk about SPX. Now SPX is a great, I think, middle ground between SPY and futures. What SPX does, it moves in increments of 5. So it's not the 0.25 that you're going to have in futures, and it's not the 0.01 you're going to have in SPY. The moves are very dynamic in SPX, up and down, which means if you really want to search for those big profits, SPX is the way to go. And SPX contracts are cheaper than SPY. If you buy them where there's a lot of volume, you're talking, 50 cents, right? Versus $1 on SPY. Let's say if you buy in the money calls on SPY, and if you buy, calls that have a lot of volume on SPX, you're talking, 50 cents. So that's a massive difference there. Now, the thing with SPX that makes it, a little more different than the other two, theta does affect SPX, because the theta is 3 times the amount that it is on SPY. So even though the contracts are cheaper, you're paying for that cheaper contract by having more theta. So that will affect scalps if you hold them longer than, let's say, 3 to 4 or 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, maybe even 6 to 7, you're noticing that theta is starting to creep in. So as long as you're in and out within, a minute or two, SPX is great and probably better than SPY and futures for scalping. But boy, you start going to 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever, then the theta will really start eating at you. So that's kind of the comparison between the three. In my view, SPY is still the best for trading the 4 EMA strategy with options. And then SPX would be second, and then futures would honestly be a distant third for me with this strategy. It's just too risky, and the risk reward gets too screwed up with the strategy for me to make it effective. Oh, and another thing which really bothered me was the the futures contracts for me with TD Ameritrade are $4, 2 to open, 2 to close. So you have to get 4 ticks if you're trading MES just to break even. On SPY, all you need is 1 tick to break even. And on SPX, you're making profit after 1 tick. So those are my comparisons, and you trade it according to your plan and what you think is best for you. But for me and this guy here, it's definitely SPY. Tactical Scalper out.